Hello, and welcome to another Trev Talks, Reflections and Reviews. I am Trevisus on Twitch, a variety broadcaster, and this is my regular YouTube show on the games I play throughout the week, my thoughts on those games, and answering a lot of the questions that I get asked regularly on my stream about those games. And this week, of course, we are talking about a pretty big game on Twitch and just in the gaming communities in general, and that is WOW Classic. If you don't know what that is the classic version of the game World of Warcraft. What does classic mean? It is World of Warcraft came out 15 years ago, and this is basically them turning back the clock to a patched version of the original release of the game. Obviously, over 15 years, the game has changed so much that a lot of people think that maybe the game has lost something in those 15 years, or it's a different experience and they want that again. And that's why this is a very popular thing. It's not necessarily a new thing. There were private servers released by, not by WoW, but for the WoW. That was the vanilla version of the game, or something similar to it. And EverQuest has done their progression servers, which are a similar thing as these classic servers for WoW. Star Wars Galaxy is another classic game around the time, has emulators, which are not official, because there's no official version of the game anymore. You can't play it outside of these emulators. But it's that same type of thing of people trying to find a way to get back to these classic MMO experiences. Now, I did not play the vanilla version of WoW when it came out, or vanilla when it came out. I was playing Star Wars Galaxies, and so this was very new to me, which was kind of exciting. I came in at Wrath of the Lich King, and I think a lot of things were better back then even than they are now. So the differences between the retail version, so the game you can play right now, you can play them both right now, but the game that has been from beginning to end of World of Warcraft, there's some pretty major differences, and this is part of what is drawing people into this classic. So the max level in current retail WoW is 120 after all the expansions, and in WoW Classic it is only 60. But it takes a long time to get there still, so there's a lot of grinding in the game, which some people like that. Some of the quest items you need to get, you have to kill a lot of creatures. The drop rates are very low. And another interesting feature is that drop rates are not shared amongst your groups. You can't get a huge group of people together and just clear out an area. You need to, but teaming up still has its benefits because you can kill things faster. So how do you balance? So there's kind of a balance to it. Maybe if I get one person to help me, sure, I get only every other loot item that drops, or quest item. It's still easier to kill the things. So there's a lot of really interesting features. So it's just the basic 8 races right now that were in the launch of the game. There's no goblins, worgans, no pandas. Sorry, everybody who loves the pandas, or Pandarans. There's no monks. Obviously, that was released later, and there's no demon hunter. Demon Hunter, I forgot was even a thing, because I have not played World of Warcraft retail in a little while, so I think I joined the game back when they released Demon Hunters, but I've not necessarily played it since. Now, so why is this such a big thing? That's a question a lot of people are asking. It's like, wow, why is this so big? I mean, the answer that most people go to is, oh, this is nostalgia. This is classic nostalgia. People are like, oh, I played this 15 years ago. I want that feeling again. But is that an experience that will last? What is the staying power of nostalgia? I don't think it's very long. I mean, if you think that, if nostalgia is the main draw to this game, I think that they might be in trouble. But I think there's actually more to it than that. I think, because for me, I don't have that nostalgia. I mean, a little bit. I have this nostalgia for classic games in general, but these games I like. I like the older styles, a lot. I played Star Wars Galaxies, and man, I loved it. The community you made in those games was huge. Some of the people that I met playing Star Wars Galaxies are still people that I talk to really regularly, play games with. Some of my favorite people to play with. I know people who got married playing like WoW back in the day, Star Wars Galaxies. And this is not something that doesn't happen anymore today in games, but I think it's a lot more rare than it was. And I mean, why is that? Why is this community factor no longer as big in modern MMOs? Well, I think one reason might be is that there's a lot there's a lot more MMOs than there were back 15 years ago. So the community is more spread out, you know. Uh, Also, the fact that you just don't need to work with people as much. You know, in classic WoW and in originally, you know, you needed that solid group. If you wanted to do any dungeons, it could take you like 2 hours to find a group to do a dungeon. And were they going to be any good? Especially when you get into higher tier stuff that takes a lot of coordination. You want to be talking to these people in some kind of comms. You know, that's just kind of the truth. And especially like PvP, you want to get a group together. You need to know people. These guilds were very important. Star Wars Galaxies, the whole thing being open world PvP, you needed to have a clan ready to go for it. That's just the way things worked, and so you made these connections, and these connections lasted. And also these games lasted a long time. People played them longer because there were less other games. You know, you didn't have like, oh, another MMO is going to drop in a week. We're going to go hop into that. You know, no, you were playing the games that were there. Spend hours to get together a group. But there's also drawbacks to this older style. Everything takes so much longer to do. I mean, people who have like when we played a lot of these games when we were younger, we summer break, we had all the time in the world we wanted to play it, or maybe we didn't have jobs, or if you did, you worked around it. But now, 15 years, people are older. I mean, they have lives, they have kids. It's harder to manage this stuff. That's why I like the free to play method of, hey, buy an XP potion, or current WoW, hey, buy a character to max level. If you don't have time to do that, they make room for that, and that's why these newer MMOs have such a huge appeal, because anybody can play them. Whereas back in the day, you had to have that commitment. It had to be there, or else you weren't going to be playing it. So that's another thing. Is like, is that going to be a barrier to people playing these type of things long term? EverQuest is still around, and people work around it. WoW Classic, we'll see. I hope it sticks. I hope it manages to stay. I hope there's a lot of draw in that. There's a new game coming out called Pantheon, which I think is a great future for people like me who feel like maybe we lost something in this quality of life changes. And these changes aren't bad. I mean, I love group finders in modern games. I love them because, man, it's easy to find a group. I played Elder Scrolls Online, and it's just like, man, I remember when this came out in WoW, when it's like, oh my gosh, I can just queue up for a group, go questing, and when it's ready, I can pop in. I was like, sign me up. That's the best thing in the world. But I think those changes are part of the reason that these connections aren't made as often. And speaking of Elder Scrolls Online, I like about last year, I tried to start a guild with a friend, and we just couldn't. Even though there's a ton of people playing that game, we couldn't get anyone to like step out and make any kind of connection in this game. We got maybe about 40 people, and we're like, oh, we got a Discord server, come pop in, come say hi, and every day it was just my friend and I in that Discord. Maybe we could get one person to come do a dungeon with us, but what's the point? Why do they need to join us to do the dungeon when they can just queue up? You don't need these groups anymore. And my friend, I remember him saying, like, there's never been a lonelier time to be on a server with thousands and thousands of people, because it's basically a single player game. You don't need these people anymore. These connections aren't there. And I mean, there are people who seek them out, and good for you, because I think those connections are great. I think those are some of my favorite, why MMOs were some of my favorite games for a long time, because you made these great connections. And there are smaller games, like I said, that are still doing that, and they encourage this. And I think Pantheon in the future is going to be one that does that. And I hope that WoW Classic, I hope it stays, because there are people who want that connection, who want to have more, a deeper bond with the other players. And I think that newer MMOs, even though they're more convenient to people who work a lot, or they just can only play a couple hours a night, I get it. I'm in the same boat. If I'm not streaming, I'm not playing a game really, and this is a hard game to stream unless you're on the top end. So it makes it difficult. The time commitment is a huge thing for these games. And are we in a world where there's so much other things to play, people have so much lives, can something like this be big? And I think right now, WoW Classic is proving that it can be big. It's dominated Twitch at the top game. I mean, bigger than I expected, bigger than a lot of people expected. It's doing very well. And like I said, we'll have to see, because if nostalgia is what's drawing all these people in, I think we'll see it drop in the next couple months. But if the people are really trying to seek out what we lost by these quality of life improvements, if people really like, hey man, these connections, this is a cool thing. Like, I'm already in a guild. I'm only like level 20 something. I'm in a guild with like 90 people. We're in Discord all the time. It's great. That's rare these days, I think. So I think it's a good direction. I'm excited for its future. But yeah, I think that's what we got on that. Anyway, I'll probably be playing some more WoW Classic when I can, hopefully. So stop on by my Twitch channel, check it out. I am Trevisis. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be releasing my life on Twitch. So yep, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitch for more of me, if that's something you like. Thank you, and